Incidentally, in Jamaica, you're not too far from the truth. It's still business. Even though you just finished business morning on Sunrise Daily, the realities of the business climate over the past 1 year, has been here and there, depending on who is in business. And two gentlemen joined us this morning to talk about the business climate in the environment in the year 2024, and perhaps even some kind of forecast into what to expect, given all of the reforms going on and the way it's affecting business and all of that. Mr. Didnt joins us here this morning. He is the CEO of Starlink Global Limited, a major cocoa exporter. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
And we also will be having Mr. Wole Ogundare join us later on the program this morning. He is an economic policy expert. So, to have a quick one on this, general understanding. Okay, well, he has joined us already. Mr. Wole Ogundare, good morning and thank you for joining us today.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, let me begin with you, Mr. Didnt. Looking at the policies of government, the ease of doing business and all of that, what is your general take on how the year 2024 has been?
The year has been very difficult, tough for everybody, and is premised on the policy of the government, because when this government came into power, there were a lot of hopes from the business community, thinking that the president himself has claimed that he was a business person. He's going to be business friendly. And the expectation was very high, especially when he came up with two major policies, scrapping of the fuel subsidy and liberalization of the FX market. Because FX market has a chain of reactions. When it was, the pronouncement was very good, was a welcome thing, but up to now, both CBN and government policies have not aligned. This policy somersault or non-alignment of these policies has drastically and negatively affected the business. You still have today exchange rate, disparity in exchange rate. You have the official rate and you still have the black market rate, still very wide apart. It makes a short-term planning very, very difficult, not to talk about long-term planning. So this instability is seriously has affected the business of export, where I play in, and very negative on it.
Well, I'm sure that Mr. Wole Ogundare will have his own, perspectives on this. Looking at it from the perspective or the angle of policies, of reforms, which no doubt has had an effect on everyone and everything, from the highest and mightiest to the meekest and lowliest in the country. How would you assess, what is your assessment of the general business climate in the country in the year 2024?
Thank you very much for having me this morning. I think even though the audio is poor, I think I made out a bit of the things that was being said in the studio. In terms of my own general assessment, I'm looking at it from two areas. One, the government policy, which my colleague in the studio there mentioned, and then the ease of doing business. You can look at the government policies, from several areas, what worked, what didn't work, and what we need to do in 2025 in that same manner. If you look at our investment climate, if we're looking at government policies and our investment climate, my colleague there mentioned fuel subsidy removal. This was aimed to improve and free up resources for infrastructure, social investment, etc., as well as ensure we have sort of some sustained long-term fiscal spend. That hasn't happened. Exchange rate unification as well. We've created a transparent forex market, so that has worked. but we haven't been able to actually use it to invest the foreign investment we require. As you know, dollar is still a scarce commodity. There's been an investment in roads, rail, and some port investments as well as some sectoral reforms in tech, fintech. For me, those are some of the things that, have worked in 2024 so far. What didn't work? For me, inflationary pressures, the subsidy removal, forex unification has led to this sharp price increases. So if you look at your daily consumer purchasing power, it's been highly eroded. And then again, my colleague there in the studio mentioned something which I'm very big on in terms of a clear lack of communication around, one, the reforms, and two, the policies. Regarding subsidy palliatives, fiscal management, all of those things are still up in the air, and the common man is suffering from this. I think another thing that hasn't worked is the tax and regulatory all sorts of policy shifts and somersault, around taxes on businesses. Again, these are things which discourage investment, in my view, particularly around SMEs, who we know are the driving force of this economy. Let me stop there for now.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Now, back to you, Mr. didnt. Of course, you've heard some of the things that he has talked about. Is it a problem? Did you see it coming? The evolution of business, the way it's been? Because from what the president has said and a number of other economists have spoken about, is that, look, we were living on borrowed time as a nation. A number of things that should have been done hadn't been done for many, many years. And now those issues, those decisions have become auspicious. There are decisions that needed to be taken, actions that needed to be taken. Otherwise, things are going to get way worse, way quicker than we imagined. Did you see this kind of upheavals coming and the way it will affect business?
Oh, yeah. We expected it. But what we expected more is the policymakers to first do their homework properly and look at how it will affect so many of the businesses, how it will affect Nigerians. There are good policies with very good intention, but implementation is a bit difficult. Let me give you an example. When you have disparity in exchange rate, somebody goes to the market and he can exchange his money at 1,650. An exporter brings in his money, which is bigger volume, and is forced to sell it to bank at 1,530. And the two of them are going to compete with the same commodity in the farm. So the other one is at disadvantage. So if there's alignment of this black market and the official market, such that the difference is minimal, it makes planning very easy.
But isn't it a little minimal now? Because the disparity was quite huge before now.
It's the same, it's just the same, just a little bit, because where the more volume comes into is from the exporter to the bank. Even today, there's no transparency in what the banks are doing. The CBN, it's only the CBN and the bank that will tell us this is what the rate is. It's not that there's any platform that is open to other people except the bank and the CBN that knows what the rate is.
Okay, quick. Let me take Mr. Ogundare's comments quickly on that exchange rate bit, because on the one hand, I mean, you are not unaware of the disparity between the black market and the regular market until recently, and then that intervention of the CBN trying to ensure that all these round tripping are nipped in the bud, and the way it is affecting business, from what Mr. didnt has said.
Mr. didnt is very correct. As long as we don't have a stable rate, remember, a lot of people will typically tell you that, look, even if it is going to be 2,000, let us know that it is stable at 2,000. As long as we have that up and down, planning, and Nigeria is a very, very import-dependent economy. planning for a lot of businesses, and I work with quite a few of them, is usually very, very difficult. So they're almost on a daily basis, talking to somebody in the bank, talking to somebody in the black market, trying to find out what those rates are and, what is best for planning, what is best for importing. Let me give you a classic example. If you're going to quote, for a customer and, you are importing the thing, you've quoted at maybe 1,650. And all of a sudden, a few weeks later, when your commodity is in, the things have gone to 1,700. Who pays the 15 naira difference across a huge amount? So for me, that is where the problem is. The lack of stability is a major, major problem. And, some of us know why there's a lack of stability. It's simple. We're not generating enough in terms of earnings as a country. But that's a different topic for another day.
Well, it is a related.
So those will be my own responses to that. Back to you.
It's a related issue. Maybe that is why it's something that is generating the kind of attention that it is generating. So back to you. You were trying to make a point. I just wanted to clear that bit of the forex thing. So please go ahead.
Yeah, it really nipped it on the head. That stability is needed. And transparency is also very important from CBN. Recently, I was a panelist on the Bankers Committee retreat in Abuja, and one of the things that was discussed is CBN needs to come out and tell us the policy direction. Because most of the time, if you are just assuming, as exporters, you are assuming this is what the government is trying to do. You don't know what exactly they are trying to do. It makes your planning very difficult, especially for people like me that trades in some other West African countries. You see how it is being done in other places, and you come back and look at how it is being done in your country. You get more and more very irritated that simple things that doesn't need any scientific formula is as difficult as this. CBN needs to come out and tell the whole world this is the direction we want to go. How do we align both the other market, which is the black market according to what they say, and the official market? Now the impression is now there are foreign influence into the country, and they now have a partnership with Bloomberg, and they have a very reasonable and stabilized exchange rate. It's not true, because what all exporters are saying is we have not been very transparent. CBN needs to come out and tell people this is the direction we want to go. Two, we need to generate employment. As long as we are primary product exporters, we will never get there. Because each time you export one bag of your cocoa beans of raw materials to other countries, industrialized countries, you are exporting your jobs. And the population is increasing. Unfortunately, lands is not going to give birth to more children. So definitely, we need to use what the God-given advantages we have, competitive advantage, use it for our people, and have a policy direction that will clip poverty. Get people to believe in the government, to trust the government, to trust the system, because it's a trust issue.
And that's a long time coming, because it's something we've been secret. Just a quick one on what you just said now about generating employment before I throw it to Kayla. What is the hindrance from industrializing? Recently, the federal government has been welcoming of that initiative by the Africa Development Bank for special agro-industrial processing zones to create industrial parks. Do you think that would help expedite that industrialization challenge?
Sorry, I think we are putting the cart before the horse. You want to industrialize. What are the ingredients for industrialization? Power, raw materials. We have the population, we have the knowledge, we have the land. But you can look at what do we produce. The elders farmers problem we did not has limited the farmers to go to the farm. In the southwest, let me just be very specific. Nigeria has a population, Western Nigeria has a population of 62 million people. That's the former whole Southwest. In the whole Nigeria, we produce 253,000 tons of cocoa every year. Ivory Coast is 33 million people. They produce 2.3 million tons of cocoa. So it was easier because it is planning. Ivory Coast, look at it, 10 years plan. Where do we want to be? They increased here in 2010. Ivory Coast was producing 1,100,000 tons of cocoa per year. They wanted to industrialize. They wanted to bring in more people to come and process in their country. They want to reduce exportation of their primary products. They increased the production. They had a 10-year plan, bringing in highly yielding hybrid of cocoa, and they started to plant. So that the volume per hectare has increased using technology. They partner with USAID that gave them, we have crane in Nigeria, which can be done. They now started producing 2.3 million tons. And they insisted, if you want to our cocoa, you must bring your factories into our country. Today, Ivory Coast processes 43% of whatever they produce. They did the same thing in cashew. But in Nigeria, we only process 10% of what we produce. And we are not even producing enough. We have the population.
That's the question I'm asking. What's the hindrance?
The hindrance is government policy.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
It's government policy.
Kayla.
Listening to everything both our guests have been saying, I'm beginning to worry again. But I'm going to ask Mr. Wole Ogundare this question, because you are an economic policy expert. Let's talk about the direction that the president is going in when it comes to economic recovery, this budget of restoration, and these policies. Okay, so we are where we are. This has happened. He says, I know what I'm doing. I'm heading somewhere. And I just need you to be patient with me while I do the hard things that will get us the benefits that we desire. Is this the way to go? And is there some economic reality about what the president is saying that we all just haven't quite understood yet?
Thanks a lot, Kayla. Let me start from where the problem is. There's a document called the National Integrated Infrastructure Master Plan. It's online. It was prepared in 2013, updated in 2021. One of the things that document mentioned is that Nigeria's total infrastructure stock, so power, transportation, health, education, water, mining, agriculture, security, all of our total infrastructure stock. When you compare it to our GDP, it's around 30–35%. It is extremely low. And you see, I've said it in so many places that no nation on earth grows with a poor infrastructure to GDP ratio. None. China's infrastructure to GDP ratio is around 90-something%. Ours is around 30–35%. That is why the ability, and you heard my colleague in the studio, the ability to be productive is challenged. Now, when the president removed fuel subsidy, the hope is that all the savings, though fictional, it just means monies we're no longer spending. All the savings will now be targeted towards infrastructure development. Let me give you a quick synopsis. Nigeria's total income today is somewhere around $20 billion. Total income, oil, non-oil, tax, everything, $20 billion. To start a trajectory moving us towards where we can now begin to say that, look, the infrastructure required for the growth and amelioration of all the problems we are having, to start towards that, we need about $50 billion every year. For the first 5 years, that document is a 30-year plan I mentioned earlier. We need $50 billion per annum to even start with for 5 years. And then we step it down to about $30 billion for the remainder of the period. Tell me, where is the money? So a lot of us, why we query all the policies and all the things going on is that, look, guys, you're not looking at the bigger picture. We do not have the monies today to grow Nigeria in the direction. How do we grow the current pie? So when you see a lot of bickering going on in the oil sector, again, it's amusing because that shouldn't be where we're focusing. We should be asking, how do we grow the current pie? Again, let me mention one more thing. No nation on earth grows with its own internal revenues. No, you have to sort of let me say something again. You have to sort of create a purpose, sell that purpose internally, sell that purpose externally, and attract foreign investment. Tell me, what are we doing today as a country to attract enough foreign investment to sort of help us towards where we want to go? Like I said, we're $20 billion dollars in terms of our economy. We need 50 billion to even start in that trajectory. So the truth is this: we're not even anywhere near the starting blocks to start with, as it is today. That is the reality that people need to understand.
Speaking of investments, let me go to Mr. Deniji in Lagos studios. We have a new minister of Trade and Investments, Jumoke Oduwole, and ease of doing business. In fact, that's what we call her, Madam Ease of Doing Business. You know, I know that you're a major exporter of cocoa. So talk to us a little bit about the ease of doing business in Nigeria, and with the prospects of a new minister. Is there hope that this ease of doing business would now be a lot even easier, seeing as Jumoke Oduwole is the person at the reign of affairs in that ministry?
Yeah, Dr. Jumoke Oduwole has been somebody I think the industry can trust. When she was the head of ease of doing business, we have a lot of confidence in her ability. Personally, she has really intervened in some crises that I had in the past, and she did very, very well. I'm not sure that she will be given the free hand to drive this new ministry, because it is not about Jumoke Oduwole now. It's about the employer. If the government gives her free hand and they give her all the support, the infrastructure, I believe strongly that she will be able to drive that ministry to a very enviable position. Immediately she became the minister, she came to Lagos, looked for the best 100 exporters in Nigeria. All of us were assembled at FEI, that Civic Center, and she asked questions, and we told her and we advised that these are the direction that these things could go. And if there are disengagement from all other sectors, I think there will be a policy alignment, and then we can start to see some upward trajectory in the whole economy, especially in trade and infrastructure. There are lots of issues that we have in that the government needs to intervene. For example, today, if you export from Nigeria to China, the bilateral agreement between Nigeria and China is still not very good. It's not good enough. If we export from Nigeria, say for sesame seed, you have to pay 10% duty. But if you export from Niger, all the French-speaking countries, they waive that 10% for them. So it makes Nigerian businesses, commodities, uncompetitive. And you have a situation whereby even some of the sesame seed, Nigeria is the second largest producer of sesame seed in the world today. But most of these sesame seed are not, they don't put the origin as Nigeria, because China is the largest importer. So if you put the country of origin Nigeria, then you have to pay 10%. What do? You have to go and get the certificate of origin from Niger and use it as if these products are being produced in Nigeria, from the Niger Republic, to export it to avoid this 10% thing. The same thing if you have processed goods from Nigeria and you are sending it to Europe, you are going to pay about 5% duty, whereas from Ivory Coast, they don't pay those duties. So these are things that make Nigeria not too competitive. Those are things that we expect the new Minister of Trade to look at. Look at the incentive regime of the government, look at the infrastructural deficiencies we have, and look at the issue of the FX, the Forex, so that once these things are aligned, people will have plan. I mean, we will be able to plan. Without planning, in an unstable situation, people will not be able to plan on what they want to do. That's why it is difficult to industrialize.
Well, I guess we are coming to that point now where all kinds of rethinking just has to be done. You know, I'm pretty sure that we're going to have we're going to have to sustain these conversations in the interest of our nation, because at the end of the day, it all goes back to the common man, as we say. Yes. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Mr. Adeniji is CEO of Starling Global. Thank you so much for your time, as well as Wole Ogundare, who is an economic policy expert. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time this morning.